I feel like the problem with a lot of tool trailers is that you put in all this shelving and infrastructure to haul all your tools, but then you lose the functionality of a trailer. You can't haul anything in it. So even if you took all the tools out, you still have all your shelving. So what if your trailer could go from this to this in under 5 minutes? Okay, I'm gonna split this video up into a few different segments. First, I'm gonna give you a quick overview of how the trailer works, how it's laid out, why it's laid out the way it is, and how it works great for our business. Then I'm gonna go into more detail on what's in the packouts, what's in this workbench, how the front storage works, how the lights work, what's on the ceiling, all of that. And then at the end, I'm gonna show you what I wanna change about this, because it's not perfect, as you can probably already see, and I've got a few changes I wanna make. So I'll be showing you those at the end. Okay, first thing when you walk in, I have a transition strip right here. It just sits in place, it's 3/4 thick, and it makes a nice smooth transition over this gap to roll everything in and out. I've got these holes drilled in it to pick it up and also to hang it. Next, we've got this sheet goods storage. This is a piece of vertical E-track, and I've got this threaded attachment for it, and then I've just put a steel plate on there, and when you hook it in place, keeps all your sheet goods from falling out. So you can store quite a bit in here, especially if you thread this all the way out. We don't use this a ton, but when we do, it saves so much space. Moving up from here, you're gonna see we've got these hooks across here. I've got a ladder here right now just to show you kind of what some options are. Usually, if we use this for anything, it's for some long board storage across here. We also have some wiring over here. Honestly, these hooks don't get used all that often, and it's probably one of the things I'm gonna change. From there, we have the packouts. I'll get into how these attach and what's in them later on in the video. Then we've got the shelving in the front of the trailer. This is a V-nose, so I made these crates a little bit longer, and then they get shorter and smaller as you go towards the edge to maximize the storage. Then we have an RV style door, so you can open it from the inside or the outside. Across this wall, I've got some hooks that actually fold against the wall, so if we need this wall to strap something to it, we can have a completely flat surface across here for strapping really tall things, really wide things, like doors, big cabinets. But if we need a ladder, we have the hooks for it. Again, same thing here, extension cord, the hook just hides away. I forgot to put this in, but there's trash can storage right here. So this is just 2 pieces of angle, and I welded them together. You just tip the trash can in, just like that, and it does not fall over. This is great because you don't have to strap it, and you don't have a big shelf coming out here taking up space when the trash can is not there. That's especially important because we need to be able to use the table saw from right here. This table saw obviously is in plane with the workbench, so we have a nice outfeed table for doing on-site table saw work. Like I said at the beginning, a lot of the problems that I was having with the normal tool trailer build outs was that all this shelving and storage was taking up valuable space that could be used for hauling cargo, not just tools. We try to stay local so we don't have to travel too far for work, and in order to do that, we have to take on a variety of jobs. So a dedicated trim company might not have the same trailer setup as a dedicated cabinet company or a dedicated remodel company, but we're all 3 of those, so we have to adapt and try to find a balance where a trailer fits all those needs. So the number one thing I was concerned with when building out this trailer is that almost everything is removable, and the way it attaches is as low profile as possible. That way, when we need to haul something big like cabinets or other cargo, we can take all the tools out and we have a nice big open area to put whatever we want. Hopefully all that makes sense. I'm gonna give you a closer look at the details now. I think I covered the sheet storage and these hooks well enough. Up here is our track storage. These use a combination of toggle clamps and this piece of wood that I put a dado in. So this is supporting it the whole way, and then the toggle clamps are really just there to keep it from falling out of this dado. That makes sure the track stays nice and straight against the ceiling, it doesn't bend anywhere, and even on this long track, all you need is 2 clamps. Onto the packouts, the way I've got these moving is a packout plate and then a couple pieces of plywood here with some locking casters on the front. The back, they're just free spinning because you only need 2 and they get in the way on the back. Now to secure these, I've got these hooks in the corners. I'm actually working on a prototype to be able to offer these for sale, and it's a whole lot better than this one because you can see this one has caused quite a bit of damage to the packout, and you have to manually lock it every time. So I'm working on improving that, but basically these have served me really well. The middle is just a T, So each Packout hooks on that, and then each side has one of these hinging stops on it. This board is also very important to keep the Packouts from rattling back. So they don't move very much, and that helps with wear and tear. In this first Packout, I have the install driver. I love this thing. I think I ruined this chuck though because it's grinding really bad. I tried like twisting a drill bit to aim it differently, and it like messed up some gears inside here. Anyways, all the attachments fit in here. It's not pretty, I know, it works though. Fasteners that need replenished, and some drill bits. This is actually our main bit box. This is where we go to find bits usually. This is an XL box, and it houses the track saw and a whole bunch of other tools. You can see I just put a piece of plywood on the bottom of the Packout, and then I was able to build this frame out so that the track saw fits at an angle, and I'm able to store some clamps and the dust bag underneath it. Then on the other side of this divider, I do have some Kaizen foam where I've cut out for the planer, the multi-tool, the grinder, and the belt sander. They all fit in here. I'll also point out that it's important that some of your tools in the boxes are able to store batteries on them and still fit in the box. So you can see the lid still closes with this dust port and this battery. Same with the track saw. This will fit a 2 amp hour battery on it, but you have to cut out a little bit of the lid. Moving on, we've got these drawers, and these have the nailers. So I've got boxes for the nails, 16 gauge nail gun. There was some other stuff in here that I decided to take out. You can see on the front, I've got red tape, and it's labeled 16 gauge, and there's red tape right here on the nailer. Here's the 18 gauge and the 23 gauge. They nest really nicely together if you cut out foam for them. And again, you can see red tape, red tape. The blue tape is to identify that they're ours. The red tape is to identify which box they go in. And again, 2 kinds of nails, which also need restocked for each nailer. In this bottom one, I have basically nothing. This is room for expansion. Thinking about maybe putting some hand tools or just non-power tools in here, but maybe a sanding box. We'll see. Here we have the 18 gauge stapler. I'd probably mark this a little different next time because this says 18 gauge, that says 18 gauge. It's kind of hard to read this stapler down tucked under there. But here it is. It's marked purple. There's purple on the front of the box, and there's 4 kinds of staples in here. I know there's only one tool in here and it's kind of a waste of space, but having the staples in the box with the stapler is super handy. And down here, we're kind of making up for the waste of space up here. We've got jigsaw, hacksaw, and cutoff tool. This works great on tile for small cuts. I've got all these jigsaw blades just pushed into the foam, and it works great. You can just grab any of them instead of having to fumble with a case. Same deal here. I've just cut out a spot underneath the hacksaw for blades to stick in. This is our drill drawer. Holds the Gen 3 impact and drill, the handle for it, some spade bits underneath, and these aren't usually in here. They were just kind of for an odd job. But then we've got this bit case. The Bosch bit cases are really nice, and the new Milwaukee ones are very similar because you're able to tilt out the bits instead of fighting those terrible finger breaking ones. SDS bits, and then again for the impact, I just poke in the bits that we usually use because they don't fit on here and allow the drawer to close. Next, we've got some hand tools, and one missing. It's right here. These are tools that I don't really want in the tool bag because it just makes it too heavy, but I still want to have them here. We don't use them that often, but when we do, we need them. Same deal here. We've got some chisels, block plane, etc. Haven't gotten around to the foam cutting yet. Packout vacuum. This is great. Works awesome. Yeah. Tool bag. Let's put this on the workbench. So this side's a little structured. It's got some hand tools in it. This is a Mora knife. You can get it on Amazon. It's got a knife blade, but also a chisel blade. This is super handy, just kind of as a beater chisel. Just be careful you don't cut yourself on that because if you use this like you would a chisel, it'd be really easy. On this side, I've built a 1/4-inch plywood divider, so it holds hammers there, multimeter, chalk line, and stud finder, and then here holds some speed squares. And then in the front, pry bars. Okay, now for the front wall. In this corner, we've got some vertical storage for our zip wall, a couple step ladders, and then some miscellaneous. We've got a drywall square, an outfeed roller, and a framing square in there. Moving up from there, we've got some crates. So this is PPE, knee pads, safety glasses, gloves, and then in here are some tile spacers. So we use these wedges and the spacers that go with them, and it's really handy to have them both in the same box, so when you're tiling, you just have everything in one place. This is full of paint tools, pretty self-explanatory. In here, I've got some random storage for things like the tripod for the laser. I need a light in here. Okay. In here, I have this tripod, and then a level 5 drywall finishing knife, and this larger paint roller. On this side, I've just got a little divider in here. There's some bolt cutters, a wire brush, a handsaw, I don't even know, some pry bars. This container I just have dedicated to be empty. We can use it to catch water if we're changing out a faucet, or if we've got some fasteners that we need to throw in here, we can just have it. Drywall finishing tools, and then blades and abrasives. So I've got circular saw blades, track saw blades, belt sander belts, sanding pads, grinder discs, all of that goes in here. Super handy to have it all in one spot, but you can see it's overflowing. Hole saws, definitely need to fix this in the future. I thought these would sit right here and this little ledge would kind of take over, but it ends up falling and then falling on the floor. Speaking of these shelves, this is just 3/4 plywood under here, and then I've screwed this poplar to the front to give it some strength across the front and make it look a little nicer. It's just 1.25 inches thick, I think. In here I've got caulking and caulk guns and a spray bottle. And then in here we've got drywall hanging tools. So drywall gun with the collated strip attachment, scrub, and screws. Yeah, it's right there. Here's the laser. If you don't have a laser and you're doing any kind of carpenter work, get a laser. This is definitely a Cadillac laser. You don't need one this fancy, but I would recommend getting, well, I would recommend this one, to be honest, because it's not only a plain laser, not only a vertical laser, but it's also a point laser, because when you turn on these 2 points, you get a crosshair right in the middle, and then you get a plumb line on the ceiling, or a plumb point on the ceiling right where those intersect. So super handy tool. We use it like not kidding every day. Behind this on the shelving, we've got the framing nailer and the SDS drill. SDS drill we kind of just bought for one project, so it sits in here and rarely gets used. Framing nailer gets used a little bit more, but those are tucked away because we don't use them all that often. Over here is some shelving that needs to be utilized a whole lot better. Up here is the spare tire, scissor jack, and ratchet strap. This has the E-clip, or the E-track clip on it, which is pretty helpful. You don't have to mess with like the adapter and all that. We just used that today, actually. This is where we keep the quick grip clamps. They clamp to these struts on the ceiling. There's no reason to make a special holder for them. They just sit there, they don't fall, and they're out of the way. Down here is a slot for the blower, and then this is another area where I need to fix some storage. This does not need to be in here right now. It only needs to be in here when we're actually doing a tile job. So making better use of this space, and this space, and this space, and this space is on the list. Down here, this is my dad's tool bag. Basically a duplicate of what's in here. We use it a little bit less often because we just share the tools out of mine, but there are some more specialty tools in here, like insulated screwdriver and this bevel gauge, which comes in pretty handy. This is a battery charger that I made. It's just handy to have 2 chargers instead of 1. One of them's a rapid charger. This goes into pretty much everybody's house if we're working there for more than 1 day. This is also a cubby that needs some help. And then this one is just kind of miscellaneous. This is a piece of metal that I bent to hold some tape measures, and pencil holder that needs restocked. Down here is the rocket storage. I'm using one of them right now, but both of them fit in here, and then this strap goes in that hole and it holds them in place. Now this middle portion that I skipped over is a mess, but there's a good reason that this is open. So again, sticking with the theme of as modular as possible, if you clean all this junk out, I can pull one of these packouts off the wall, and if we want all this space open to haul cargo, I can still bring some tools. And they slide right in there. Then this bungee cord hooks right there. That needs fixed. Next, I've got the lights. So in here, I have a battery management system. I think that's what you'd call it. But essentially, it keeps this battery from draining below a threshold where it would get damaged. Sorry, I had to take out the battery for this, but all this is just 2 terminals and a switch. There is no brains inside this to tell the battery to stop giving juice to it. If I were to leave this on without this battery management system, these lights would drain this battery until it was fully dead and it wouldn't recharge fully again. This is our current voltage, and then if you click here, it shows you your threshold voltage. So once the battery drops below 17.2, it will turn off, and then if you push this button, it shows you if it rises 0.3 volts above 17.2, it'll turn back on. I'll have a link to everything you need for the lights in the description. Up here, I've got some battery storage. These have stealth mount feet on the back, and they hook in very nicely here. I'll have a link to these battery clips. They are the best ones I've had. The other ones I had were breaking in the winter because it was getting so cold. These have a lot more plastic on them, and they interlock together, which is kind of nice. Quick intermission here. You can see this is kicking the lights on and off, and that's because it's sensing a voltage drop in the battery, and you can see it's dead. And so when it turns it off, the voltage comes back up and it kicks back on. So you know when the light is flashing that the battery is dead. This is the 7¼ inch cordless miter saw. It's attached to this packout plate, which then clicks into this packout plate. So I could take this miter saw and stick it on a packout stack if I wanted. But as it is right now, it folds up and then is flush with the table. It's an outfeed table, works great. Back behind the miter saw, we've got sawhorse storage. This is 3/4 material, so we can cut through it and don't have to worry about cutting into the sawhorse. These work really good. They are the Speed Horse, and we love them. And then down here, boards that fit into the slots of the sawhorse. So when you've got them set up, they run in here so that you have kind of a level surface to work on. This is the junk drawer. I'd like it to be a little bit less of a junk drawer right now. It is not, but it holds the bigger tube for the caulk gun, and then just trash bags, like super random stuff in here. Down here is some plumbing and electrical supplies. So plumbing, electrical, and then same split down here. If you take these off, this is just like wire nuts, random stuff that we might need. And then under here, plumbing, electrical, again, just small stuff we might need in a pinch. This is riding on this piece of plywood that I cut out with a router. I just made this template and then I cut out a bunch of these a long time ago actually. But they ride on these Bloom drawer slides just because that's what we had on hand. And then in the back is a magnet, and you can hear it click so that it doesn't pull out unless you really want it to. Here, same deal except for fasteners. Assorted fasteners, and then some larger fasteners. Towards the middle, I've got 6 more crates, actually 8 more crates. They're the same size as these ones, so I can kind of mix and match if we don't have the workbench in here, but I want, say, the screws. I can throw them up here and take out one that I won't need up here. So there's shims and some drill jigs in this one. There's some sponges and rags in here. Down here is some auxiliary storage for nails that we don't use all that often. There's some framing nails in here, roofing nails, double-headed nails, and then some screws that we don't use that often, like ledger locks, cement board screws, drywall screws. And all of these are held in on a ledge so that they don't come out. It's just a little lip there on the face frame so that nothing slides out. Under here, we've got tile tools. In this one, I've got glue, adhesives, kind of some random stuff. I try to keep the stuff that can get cold, or the stuff that can't get cold, in as few crates as possible. So there's the caulking in that one, and there's the glue and putty in this one. So in the winter, if we leave the trailer outside, we know we can just grab those 2 crates and bring them inside so they don't get cold. As for how we secure this to the trailer, it's kind of like a French cleat system. There's 2 wedges right here, and you're able to slide the workbench and then pull it out. I've got a piece of plywood cut here with a 45 on it, and then the corresponding 45 on the wall mount. And now I'm able to push these together. There's 1, 2, and then a third one down here just to hold this tail end in. So then when I slide these together, it locks in place, and I just have to push this wedge down and this one, and now it's not going anywhere. The stress is all put on this joint right here, not on the thing that you use to lock it. That way there's no pressure on these, and they're super easy to unlock, and they just kind of stow right there so you don't lose them, and then you just pull it. I've had to shim this just to make sure that I got good contact with this. It was kind of pulling away from the wall. I'm not sure if this is out of square or if my workbench is out of square, but I just shimmed it so that it was making good contact all the way down. As I said before, the table saw is in line with the workbench, so it's a nice long outfeed table. And then I've got these 2 strips of wood in here that the saw index is on, so it doesn't move around. It stays right where we need it to be, but if we want it gone for whatever reason, it lifts off. Down here, there's a pass-through for these 2x4 runners. I've got a rope in here just so it's a little easier to grab. And then Stabila level bag, just a 4-foot set, and it slides right in there. Speaking of levels, this is where our longer level storage is. There's just these rotating tabs. Level drops down, and they're out of the way. Okay, now let's get into some of the changes I want to make. First problem. This hook is failing. This falls off pretty regularly, so I need to figure out a better hook for this, or somehow attach this to the floor with some hinges so that we can just fold it up and then it's right there when we want it, and fold it back down. Number 2, like I said before, these hooks were for some longer material storage, but we don't end up really using it for that. I do want to have a spot to have some scrap lumber for blocking. It's just super handy to have a little bit of extra something. I'm thinking probably on the ceiling, maybe over there. Not sure yet, but I do want to have some storage for some blocking. Number 3, I might, well, this is a maybe number 3. I might want to build a better one of these if I have time for it. This one's just kind of wobbly. I don't really like, honestly, how it looks. Number 4, I want to build my 2.0 version of these. These work fine. They're a little bit, actually they're really simple, but the fact that you have to lock it, I would prefer it just automatically lock when you push it in. So I'm working on a version of this where the spacing between them is predetermined because it's 1 unit all the way across that hooks it. And then also you don't need this board in here to keep them from bouncing. Number 5, there's several shelves on here that are kind of left open for whatever you want to throw in there, and you end up with just a bunch of junk on them. So I need to add some structure to these shelves so that it's more obvious what goes there, and so that we don't end up leaving something behind or losing something back in this black hole. Number 5.5 is adding a little bit of structure to this drawer. Not a ton, because I do want to be able to just kind of throw whatever in here, but it doesn't need to look like this. Finally, number 6, I want to fix the dust collection on the table saw, or rather just have any kind of dust collection, because it ends up just blowing straight into this piece of plywood and then it goes everywhere and it makes a giant mess in the trailer. So I want to see if I can pipe this down and then have a tray right here that can pull out and hold all the dust and can be emptied. That's the general idea right now. Okay, that's mostly it. I did measure this to the shelving. I have about 15 feet. So if you wanted to haul 16-foot material, you could just take out a few of the things on the floor and you could shove 16-foot material underneath. I think that's everything I wanted to show you. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you think we should add or subtract. And thanks for watching.